Hello, my name is Triton Spade, and here are the most important China news you might have missed for the week of September 3rd through 9. We start off with the company Apple, whose launch of the new iPhone 15 is just days away. Shares in Apple have declined for 2 consecutive days following reports that Chinese government employees have been prohibited from using iPhones. The company's stock market valuation has dropped over 6%, nearly $200 billion in just 2 days. China is Apple's third largest market, contributing 18% of its total revenue last year, and that is where most of its products are still manufactured by Foxconn, its largest supplier. The Wall Street Journal reported that Beijing had instructed central government agency officials not to bring iPhones to work or use them for work-related purposes. Bloomberg News later suggested that this ban might extend to its workers at state-owned enterprises and government-backed agencies. The restrictions on iPhones were issued by superiors and officials in recent weeks, according to sources cited by the Wall Street Journal. While iPhones have already been prohibited in some agencies, the ban appears to have been expanded. It remains unclear how widely these instructions were disseminated throughout the Chinese government. Some employees at state-owned companies claim to have been told so to stop using Apple devices by the end of September. Apple shares aren't the only ones affected. Shares in some of its suppliers have also dropped. Qualcomm, the world's largest supplier of smartphone chips, experienced a more than 7% decline, and South Korea's SK Hynix saw shares fall by around 4%. The rising tension between the US and China in the technology sector have contributed to these developments. Both countries have imposed restrictions on technology, with the US and its allies like Japan and the Netherlands limiting China's access to chip technology. In retaliation, China restricted the exports of two materials crucial to the semiconductor industry and reported establishing a $40 billion investment fund to support its chip manufacturing sector. The recent launch of Huawei's Mate 60 Pro smartphone, featuring a new 5G Kirin 9000s processor developed by China's largest contract chip maker, SMIC, has underscored China's technical progress in the semiconductor industry. US Congressman Mike Gallagher has called for further export restrictions on Huawei and SMIC, highlighting the ongoing tech competition between the two nations. Still reeling from the release of the new standard map by China last week, China's recent efforts to assert control in the disputed South China Sea have raised concerns among regional governments, potentially pushing them closer to the United States and its Western allies. China's release of this new standard map outlining its unilateral claims to most of the South China Sea drew strong reactions from neighboring countries including Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, the Philippines, and Brunei. Analysts warned that China's assertive action risks damaging its long-term ties in the region. As Southeast Asian nations grow stronger economically and militarily, they are less likely to align with China in the event of a conflict with the United States. Recent developments in the South China Sea, including the clash between China and the Philippines and the release of China's new map, serve as a warning to the region. China's actions are reinforcing the perception that may not adhere to its stated commitments. While direct confrontation with China is unlikely due to trade ties, some Southeast Asian countries are expected to become less polite in their response to China's behavior in the South China Sea. China's insistence on its territorial claims and its approach to the South China Sea Code of Conduct negotiations are reviewed as tactics to serve its own diplomatic and strategic interests. South Asian nations have also been modernizing their militaries, purchasing arms and forming alliances with Western powers, suggesting a shift towards greater alignment with the West. Polls indicate that countries in the region increasingly trust Washington much more than Beijing. In the short term, China's assertiveness may not lead to significant changes in the regional dynamic, but in the longer term, it could result in a sustained shift in relations between China and some of its Southeast Asian neighbors. While regional governments may continue diplomatic engagement with China, they are also moving closer to the US and its allies, including Japan, South Korea, and Australia. In tech news, China has pledged to strengthen its export controls through innovative methods in a response to trade tensions with the United States, Europe, and India. This move comes as China faces growing restrictions on its exports, including curbs on rare metals and drones with potential military uses. A recent meeting organized by China's Ministry of Commerce emphasized the need to enhance the country's exports control system in light of a challenging international and domestic situation. China's export control law, which came into effect in 2020, is designed to respond to trade restrictions imposed by other nations. This law is similar to the US Export Administration regulations and includes a list of controlled items such as sensitive technology, military equipment, and dual-use items requiring licenses for exporting. It also grants China the ability to retaliate against countries violating export controls and endangering national security, although the specific criteria for such violations are not clearly defined. The US had previously blacklisted 12 Chinese firms, including quantum computing and semiconductor companies, drone maker DJI Technology, and China's Academy of Military Medical Sciences, over their alleged ties to the military or involvement in surveillance activities in Xinjiang. In response, China's issued a white paper on export controls pledging to engage in shaping fair, reasonable, and non discriminatory global export restrictions, particularly concerning dual use items, military products, and nuclear material. Starting from August 1st, 2023, China imposed restrictions on the exports of gallium, germanium, two rare metals crucial for the advanced technology equipment. Additionally, it placed restrictions on exports of drones with potential military applications, like what we have been seeing used in Ukraine. China is the world's largest producer of gallium and germanium, holding a significant share of global production. These export controls come amid a broader effort to limit China's chip-making capabilities through export restrictions, and it has faced opposition from the US and its allies. The trade friction has primarily involved the US, the EU, and India, impacting industries like electronics, mechanical equipment, and light manufacturing. And there you have it, the most important China news this week. Make sure to subscribe to stay in the loop. I'm Triton Spade. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time.